It's showtime. I'm gonna be talking to you about the adrenal glands. Oh yes, why? Because between you and me, I see it all the time. I see it like all day, every day, every time. Someone with a dysregulated nervous system that is now defunct and they're burnt out. Burnt out. You got nothing left to give. Nothing. The Energizer Bunny is not going no more. No batteries left. So I figured, hey, let's talk about it, huh? Let's get right into it. First thing I'd like to speak about is the elements of resilience, right? Because resilience is both a resource and a strategy. It's something we can learn and develop, but it's hard to do once you're already burnt out, right? If you're not adaptable, you're not feeling like you're living a purpose-living life, and you're not seeking support, and the last thing we do is usually ask for help, and your capacity to self-regulate is out the window. Partially because you are burnt out, because you're experiencing symptoms. Essentially, you don't trust your body, and your body don't trust you. No, it doesn't. And so often I hear patients talk about, oh no, I'm looking for balance. I want to balance my life. If I have more balance, I'll be better. No, it doesn't work like that. Nothing is standstill in life. You and I both know that. Everything's dynamic. Everything fluctuates. The hedonic treadmill. What goes up must come down, and what goes down must come back up. So when a gymnast is holding a handstand, they're actually not perfectly balanced, but rather they're performing a constant micro adjustment. Everything's continuously adjusting. I mean, your body is doing it all the time. Homeostasis, bringing it back to the middle. Whenever the pendulum sways, we bring it back. Drink too much alcohol, which is a depressant, you're going to feel anxious tomorrow, right? Take too much cocaine, you're going to feel depressed afterwards and not motivated. Everything sways. The stronger the medication is, recreationally or prescriptionally, the more of that sway back's going to hit you. So your body's always adjusting, trying to find its middle ground. And hence we look for balancing. A verb, not a noun. Now, what about stress? Well, what about it? Maybe this gives you some perspective, something to look at. What are some 4 things that really keep stress in context? 1, it's novel, okay? It's the unknown. You're uncertain about it. Secondly, it's unpredictable. You can't control it. So something's going to happen to you. Thirdly, you feel threatened to the self and to the ego, to who you are. I mean, all our life we create masks, personas, right? So that we can feel safe with the external world and in a way feel sort of at ease in our internal world because of it. And fourthly, like I said, it's a lack of control. You feel like you can't do something about it. Now, the cortisol is a feedback loop, right? It's really important to notice that. Everything you do, your body's always creating feedbacks. It's giving you feedback. What's going on? Are we too high? Are we too low? What's happening? We go, let's check in. And we have something known as a HPA axis, a hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Fancy word for just saying our brain connects to our adrenal glands, and our adrenal glands create the cortisol, and cortisol helps us manage stress. Now, one thing I should tell you is that stress isn't just physical. It's mental and emotional, and I dare say spiritual as well. But your body don't care. Stress is stress, and when you stress, you got to pay the piper. You got to pay up. And that can look like different things for every different person, right? We all have our Achilles heel and our traits, the things that make our weak. And so when we have too much cortisol, our body tries to bring it down. When we have not enough, our body tries to bring it up. But when you're in a continuous influx of stressors and it goes from acute to chronic, well, you're going to get yourself a little confused along the way. So we have something known as Selle's GAS, or Selle, I don't know quite how to say it, General Adaptation Syndrome. Now, if you take a look here, you see homeostasis, right? Balance. There's an alarm phase. A bear, a wolf, a cougar is attacking me. Or, my boss is firing me, right? There's an alarm stage. Cortisol rises, whoosh, peaks, because you got to handle the stress with it. And then it might come back down, you're good, unless the stress continues. Oh, I got fired, now I don't have money, I got kids that need their mouths feed, or I'm going through a separation and that's going to take a whole year till divorce and who knows how long that will take afterwards. So there might be a resistance phase. So the stage is where your body just has to maintain. It's like, oh man, we're not out of it yet. I see the light of the tunnel, but we're not out of it yet. And there's only so long you can stay inside that resistance stage until the body can't keep up with it no more, right? If you're not recovering, if you're not rejuvenating, if you're not eating healthy, if you're not taking care of yourself, whatever that looks like, it could be doodling, could be drawing, could be walking through nature, could be meditating, could be yoga, could be getting a snuggle from your dog, could be resting, napping more. It could be doing F all, doing nothing, right? That's a skill set, by the way, doing nothing. That's a good skill. No, like intentionally. Anyways, if you don't do those things, you'll get exhausted, burnout. I find the irony, like I get a giggle out of it when patients tell me, I think this condition I have, I think stress makes it worse. It's like, you goddamn right, it makes it worse. Preach! It makes it worse so much. So stress makes everything worse, and your adrenal glands are the optics to your response in life. So they're intimately intertwined with everything, from testosterone to progesterone to your neurotransmitters. So I'd say it's a pretty wise investment to take care of them throughout your life. And so that's why something I often always focus on for patients. Now on the right hand side here, you'll see even our mitochondrial function. The mitochondria is like the cellular function. We're not talking about hormones as in like the adrenal glands, the organs. We're talking about the cells, yes, all the way down granular. And we see here that if you have a very adaptive lifestyle, you take care of yourself, you sleep, you eat well, you exercise, your capacity to handle stress is higher. So the allostatic overload, or the load that wears you down, that bears on you, you're able to handle that because you're taking care of yourself. But if you're not, then you're going to start having stressors. You're going to start having mitochondrial dysfunction. You're going to start having free radical production. So that's, right, we take antioxidants. Think of it like, no, you're getting pro-oxidants. You're like a bike that's getting rusty. You're like a car that's got a lot of like squeaks and wheels falling out of place and, bolts falling out of place. You get my gist. It ends up all the way affecting your genetics and your epigenetics, and this can increase blood pressure and cholesterol markers and so on and so forth. Now, when we have high cortisol, we have a very excited HPA axis. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the connection between your brain and adrenal glands. And we also call this like stage 1 adrenal fatigue. It's a misnomer. It's not really adrenal fatigue. You might call it adrenal insufficiency. There's not really a diagnosis, let's say, in it, unless it's like Cushing's or Addison's disease. That's really further down the road, and that's a thing of its own. We're talking about like gradations, titrations to get there. Not that you'd want to. And so when you have a high cortisol lifestyle, you want to chill out. You want to focus on your vagus nerve, polyvagal theory, for example. You want to get snuggles, increase oxytocin. That makes you feel at ease. You want to reduce all that cell phone exposure. All this can be done throughout the day and hopefully at night, or at least you should do nothing at night and chill out. What are some things you can do? You can support with some GABA, some amino acids, some L-theanine, some 5-HTP, some tryptophan, some pregnenolone. So all things that can do that. Remember, this is educational. This is not medicinal advice. Speak to your healthcare practitioner should you have any concerns. Keep learning, make your own decisions, be informed. Now, the nervous system. With our first breath, we embark on a lifelong quest to feel safe in our bodies, in our environments, and in our relationships with others. So we are neurologically wired to connect, engage with life, and take the risks of living. And with those risks, come certain symptoms. And that's something to note, because we know that stress can make you sick. Researchers have demonstrated that chronic stress can increase pro-inflammatory cytokines. What are cytokines? Call them like chemical messengers. Inflammatory, inflammation, right? You hurt yourself, you get red, hot, swelling, that's inflammation. But you can also have it systemically inside your body. And glucocorticoids like cortisol, for example, they have an immunosuppressive effect. They numb your immune system. If you've never heard of prednisone, people say, oh, that's an evil medicine. And yeah, you take that for a long time. It can be pretty damn evil. But it's also effective for someone that has like a highly activated autoimmune condition and is in a lot of pain, stakes, and can't rest and whatnot because of the discomfort. Guess what? Prednisone is pretty effective at numbing an autoimmune system, or at least the immune system as a whole. And we even have something known as sickness syndrome. You know how you feel when you're sick? You don't feel like going out. You don't have appetite. You don't feel like doing the things that you enjoy doing. Guess what else sounds like that? When you're depressed. It's not much different, sickness syndrome and being depressed. They have overlapping factors. And it's interesting to note that we have an adaptive response to it that enhances and recovers our energy. So what I mean by that is that you can feel sick and still push through. when the going gets tough and you've got a lot on the line. And it's interesting to note that our social environments, because we're social creatures by nature, is one of the most potent modulators that it impacts our behaviors. So when conflicting social opportunities arise, animals as a whole, not just humans, can decrease or entirely forgo experiencing sickness symptoms. So let's say, for example, you're like the CEO, or maybe not CEO, but like someone that's like just climbing up the ladder. And you're starting to get sick, but then you realize like, oh, you're not performing as well, and you realize one of your colleagues might actually take your job, or he will get or she will get that position that you want to get promoted to. All of a sudden you're like, I gotta drink more coffee, so I'm gonna take some Ritalin, I'm gonna start doing these things, or just in of itself, you're gonna start pumping up cortisol to push through. Or even if mating's involved, if I'm not going to this party, maybe I'm not gonna, end up with this partner of mine that I really want to be with. You push through things, and we as a human species are pushing through things all the time. We don't even know how to stop and reflect and take a moment to sit back anymore. So a lot of people are walking around sick. They don't even know it. Their immune system is numb to it. And you and I both probably have experienced this. I know I have. Think about your childhood. Think about when you were doing like university or public school, and you were grade school, and you were going through like a really heavy exam period. Exams every day. I don't know why they do that. Exams every day, and then you're pushing through it, and then finally you're done, and you get sick. You relax and you get sick. You go on vacation, you get sick, because you're not pushing anymore. You're finally accepting, finally letting it happen. And it's important. It's a reset. You have to go through the cycles. Now, stress can impact your gut. You know that. It can impact your brain. It can impact your immune system. These are all really important functions. It can impact your pancreas and the way you regulate blood sugar, because blood sugar is fuel, and when you stress, you need fuel. It can impact your adrenal glands in terms of cortisol and numbing things. It can impact your thyroid, which deals with your metabolism, right? Metabolically active. That's a big piece to note as well. And so one thing I'd like for you to know is that sometimes we have sluggish cortisol clearance, and sometimes we have good cortisol clearance. These things can have different impacts in the way that we experience them. And we are also neuroplastic. So we have strong pathways and less strong pathways. And what I mean by that is that we used to think that when we have certain pathways in our brains that connect where, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not true, actually. You can. And our body needs just the right level of stress in order to learn and grow and create pathways that promote and help us grow. But if it's too much stress, we're in distress. And if it's no stress at all, well, then we get bored, right? I mean, come on. If everything's super chill, we're just bored. We're like trying to. Have you ever had it where there's nothing stressful and you're actually thinking about something that's going to stress you out? You're actually concerned because there's nothing to stress out? Yeah, that's a pattern. That's a big, big pattern. Some of the basics I look at often is B vitamins. Always take them with meals, particularly pantothenic acid. That's B5, very important for the adrenal glands. 100 milligrams or more per day. You can divide it doses, 100 milligrams twice a day if you like. Super important. Vitamin C helps make cortisol. We're quite a vitamin C deficient nation as a whole, I'd say. Magnesium, because a relaxed body makes for a relaxed mind. It's an important cofactor. Helps with GABA, right? Calming neurotransmitter production. And we also have some adrenal hormones, right? So like cordyceps, schizandra berry, rhodiola, Siberian ginseng, cooling ginseng, better for women, Panax ginseng, Korean ginseng, hot ginseng, better for men. If you take a super hot ginseng and you give it to a very sensitive man or woman, let's say, they can experience some restlessness. Well, that's just getting energy and it's just like spilling all over the place. We don't want that either. And so there's different stages to adrenal dysfunction. We have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So stage 1 is that acute stress, like we gotta hold it together. So the cortisol is always up. Stage 2 is we're trying to hold it together, but we're really not doing that good of a job and we're just throwing everything we can at it. And stage 3 is we don't even know when we're stressing anymore, so we're wired and tired. When you're like wide awake at 3 a.m. in the morning, you don't know why, and you're super exhausted at 12 at noon. It's because your body can't predict anymore what's happening. Cortisol's main function is homeostasis, balancing. And continuous exposure to stress just breaks that loop. And that impacts your brain, impacts your nervous system, impacts all the other organs along with it. So your body loves to predict what happens and when it happens. And one of the best cues you can get is through the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is through your eyes, which is sunlight exposure. Your body likes that. Your body likes to know when it wakes up. It likes to know when it's dictated to do things and when it's not. And so what's really important is that, I explain, this is how the car works, the cortisol awakening response. This is how your body responds in the first 30 minutes of waking up. It's like starting a car. If you're in the winter, you should kind of let a car run before you start, ripping around with it. It's like your body. Your body needs the same thing. It needs to warm up a bit. But how well does it warm up? It's like you put the ignition key in, it's like a chugga 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 chugga, or is it like a chugga chugga, right? That latter one was the good sound, by the way. I hope you got that. So, as you get closer to awakening, the pituitary gland increases ACTH, adrenal corticotropin releasing hormone. It's just saying it's going to help you create more cortisol. But there's a blunting of the adrenal gland. It's waiting to release all that cortisol that's just building up. And when the eyes open and light enters the retina to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, it's showtime. There's a release of that blunting and cortisol, poof, rises by about 50%. And it causes you from being conscious to alert. And then gradually cortisol declines again. It's like you got a spurt like a rocket. And then by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m., you start settling in again. That's why we're circadian creatures. And that's why also, to be honest, having night shifts is one of the worst things you can do for yourself. I mean, kudos, praise for our night shift workers, or nurses, or paramedics, or police officers, or firefighters, you name it. Like, such kudos to them. I couldn't do it. Oh my God, I'd be wailing. Feel so sorry for myself. People would just be, anyways. Not gonna digress and make it about myself, but I'll just say that takes courage, and it's really hard for the body to respond to that, because when you go from overstimulation to overexertion to exhaustion, that is the road to burnout. And when you are fully burned out, you're not motivated. You get dizzy spells. Standing up quickly and feeling faint. Oh yeah, that's an adrenal thing. Why? Because standing up from lying down, your blood pressure has to work now against gravity, right? Gravity works it down. But you got to get blood pressure to your brain. If you got low blood pressure, which is usually an adrenal thing, then you don't get that stress from getting up and working against gravity. Blood pressure can't make it. And so when blood doesn't get there fast enough, you get a little fainty before you start steadying again. And if it doesn't get there at all, you'll faint. In the same way that like bright lights. Man, have you ever had like a bright light shine in your eyes? It's stressful. If you're a person that like always has troubles with bright lights and you're squinting and you're wearing sunglasses most of the time, yeah, that's a stress on the body. Chances are your adrenal glands aren't being supported. They're being worn out. But we also see like difficulty concentrating, low libido, poor sleep, irritable, anxious, fatigue. And those are just symptoms. There's some signs we see too, like low melatonin levels, like your body just can't rest. You won't let yourself rest. High TSH, which means your thyroid isn't working as well as it should be. Low testosterone, right? 5 hours or less of sleep every day lowers your testosterone. Has a lot to do with your nervous system. From a traditional Chinese medicine standpoint, liver qi stagnation. That classic sign. Yeah, that's a stress response. Common. Hypochlorhydria, not producing enough stomach acid to digest food because you're stressed. It's called the rest and digest for a reason. You can't digest life when you're not present for it. And the reality of what that looks like, how that translates is you don't notice when your body's clenched or tightened up and you can't sleep and your breathing is shallow. You confuse attention with connection. You're unable to be alone, right? And you're stuck in your head, overthinking, rationalizing. And we do that because when we're fearful, we go into our heads because we think we can control there. And we abandon this body and the way it feels. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. It goes all the way to mitochondrial function, how well your mitochondria works. Burnout, workplace stress affects the mental health of 75% of employees. And the WHO actually considers burnout an organizational health problem nowadays. There's so much to know. So what do you want to look at? Well, I think looking at your hematology, your blood profile to see if there's any nutritional deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, your thyroid status, your adrenal hormones, if you have a vitamin D deficiency, especially in the winter. And what are some things that you can do? Like cold shock, for example, is a very prominent way to help support your adrenal glands, cold plunging. But remember, it's the dose that makes the difference. A dose can be medicine or it can be poison depending on how it's used. So, if you get a good vitalization for out of 30 seconds, great. But if you start going 7 minutes and you're like shivering and shaking and you're just like stressing yourself, that's not good. You got to check in with your vitality around that. That can give you a bloody heart attack. You have to be careful. Your vitality is how well, it's almost like your resilience, your adaptability. How well can you meet the stress? Because some stressors build you, right? Think of it like a tree. The strongest roots, the strongest trunks are the ones with the most shearing force of the wind they receive. Pressure makes the strongest diamonds. But two, the strongest metals break under pressure. So you got to be mindful of that. And certain supplements, like I shared, from an adrenal standpoint, from a vitamin standpoint, from a herbal standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint, honoring your circadian rhythms, your Zeitgeber. Zeitgeber is a German word for rhythmic time cue. Your body loves to know. It loves to predict when you eat, when you poop, when you socialize, when you make love, when you go to bed. All that. So give your body some consistency. Now, I'm not saying make your life boring. No. But give it some consistency. It just doesn't have to be all over the map all the time. And with that, I'm over out. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.